Paper or plastic?
Oh, I forgot my own bags. Plastic. No, wait, paper. Hang on, which one's better? I don't know.
Don't stress, Neil. The podcast Living Planet is here to help. We know you want to do what's right for the planet, but you're busy and you have to make 1,000 small decisions every day. So we endeavor to answer what's better.
Cotton or polyester?
Tea or coffee?
For answers to these environmental conundrums and your questions, subscribe to Living Planet wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi everyone, it's Matt here from the Food Fight podcast. Just a quick note that the EIT Food flagship event Next Bite is taking place this year in Rome on October the 15th to 16th, and tickets are on sale now. If you're interested in food system innovation, this is the event for you. Next Bite unites thought leaders, entrepreneurs and practitioners from across the European food system to share knowledge and innovative perspectives on the future of food. So come and meet the incredible EIT food community, whilst also discovering groundbreaking food innovations, creating connections and exploring solutions for advancing the agri-food system. And as an added bonus, the Food Fight team will also be there in person with a dedicated podcast booth, so please drop in and say hi. And if that wasn't enough, listeners to the show get a 15% discount off tickets to Next Bite. Just go to www.eitfood.eu/nextbite podcast and use the promo code FFpodcast, all one word. I can't wait to see you all there. Hi everyone, I'm Matt Eason. Welcome to one of our special docu-episodes. In these explorative deep dives, we tackle the big questions within the food system, uncovering fascinating stories of innovation and change. Time to further explore the groundbreaking ideas and incredible people driving the future of food.
Did you know food alone accounts for more than a quarter of global greenhouse gas emissions, occupies half the planet's habitable land, and consumes 70% of the world's freshwater withdrawals? All this puts food at the very heart of the fight against climate change.
So hi, I'm Sylvie Chin, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and my mission is to heal the broken food system.
Sylvie, like many forward-thinking leaders, is tackling the carbon footprint of the food industry in Europe head-on.
I just always wanted to make all my superpowers work for a noble cause, and supporting, mitigating climate change is really what helps me jump out of bed every day.
Most of the focus on decarbonising the food sector centres around major global players, but smaller businesses have a valuable role to play too. Around the world, over 90% of organisations in the global food supply chain are small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs. Collectively, these SMEs are responsible for around half of business-driven greenhouse gas emissions, but their ability to reduce their carbon footprint remains limited, largely due to squeezed profit margins. That's significant, considering the food industry contributes roughly 17,000 metric tonnes of CO2 annually. That's the equivalent of 26% of global emissions. As our understanding of environmental impacts deepen, so too do the policies and regulations designed to foster a sustainable future. Yet startups and small businesses often struggle to navigate the complexities of compliance and reporting.
It's super boring. It's, oh my God, it's so complex. Nobody understands anything. There's a lot of confusion and misconceptions about the carbon market and the carbon credits. And I think that there's a lot of potential because it's a framework. Usually when I speak to small businesses, everybody would like to do something, and all those small businesses would like to also reduce their carbon footprint. The main challenges that small businesses have is they don't know what to do, where to start, and they don't know who's going to pay for it. Small businesses have been forgotten. They are underserved. So what we thought is that we need to help them become carbon literate, and we are sharing best practices. So then they understand where are the possibilities to reduce carbon footprint, and to do that on a small budget, for instance.
Sylvie's organisations, ClearCO2 and ClearCO2, are designed to bridge this gap, making the path towards sustainability accessible for all agri-food SMEs. By providing a data platform, they enable businesses to connect with sustainable suppliers and leverage carbon accounting to drive growth. Sylvie's mission is clear: to empower SMEs to contribute meaningfully to the fight against climate change, one sustainable step at a time.
Before we go deeper, it would be great to touch on quickly what are carbon credits, because that's usually where people start with and where there's a lot of confusion. I realized by searching where does this confusion come from is that out of the Paris Agreement that many states have signed, there is a carbon crediting mechanism where countries and large companies on the mandatory carbon market have a budget for their emissions. The problem is that those allowances are sometimes too high, so many people say that it's a free permit to pollute or to emit. And those allowances are named carbon credits by some people. Yeah, I think it's misleading, so I prefer to speak of allowances in this case for the mandatory carbon market for larger companies, large projects. On the other side, there's another market which is called the voluntary carbon market. And here there are also carbon credits named, which are more carbon savings, what I was touching before. And that's basically where ClearCO2 is. And it's easier for people to understand. It's not as complicated as the other mandatory market. And it's accessible to anyone who would like to claim carbon neutrality. So basically, it's much more simple. If a business or an organization is emitting greenhouse gas emissions, then they can decide to quantify those and compensate with buying certified carbon credits, which I prefer to name carbon savings because it makes it super clear. My point of view is that there's so much confusion around carbon credits being used for two different concepts which are not the same at all. I think it's easier just to say, let's speak of carbon savings and getting those certified. Certification can bring clarity and exactly a methodology and way of knowing what means carbon savings and making it clear, understandable, and actionable for businesses to do something. Gather all the proofs to show that there's no greenwashing, that this is trusted and transparent, and those certificates can be sold, and those who want to buy them to compensate their emissions can do so, and then the money flows to those who did the saving. And that is a very nice virtuous circle, because then the money can really be used to create value of greenhouse gas savings and benefit everyone. We are all polluters. As soon as I buy something, that I use, that I cook something, then I emit. We are all emitters. We are all polluters. We know it's not good. Of course, the first thing is to save those greenhouse gas emissions. So if we still live and consume and buy products and produce them, then we should be all offsetting. Right now, we don't pay the full cost. We only pay one part because it's so untransparent that we don't know how much we're polluting and how much we're putting into the atmosphere. It's tougher to do that on an individual level. Those big carbon markets are focusing on organizations like companies, usually big ones. And at ClearCO2, we want to focus on small, mid-sized organizations. And we want to help them be able to be responsible organizations, just like we would like to be all responsible citizens. And if we don't pay the full cost of our emissions, we should at least offset it, and means that we compensate for those emissions by, usually it's donations, but we are even going one step further. If we are creating value through those certified carbon credits that can be traded and sold, there is profit possibilities. All of us, all companies and all people could invest in carbon projects. It's like savings account for the future. We put money aside, We make sure that those investments are into trustworthy projects. That's why these projects and projects for savings of greenhouse gas are being certified. So we know that these can be trusted. These are verified. Every methodology is like a checklist with best practices of quick wins to do about how to reduce emissions, how to save waste in a certain industry, for instance. We always help them start with waste. Everybody hates waste, it costs money, and usually there are costs for the environment. I can give an example. Right now, we are piloting with the food bank network in Austria. The food banks are avoiding food surplus from farms, from supermarkets, to go to landfill, to go to waste. Usually when food goes to waste, it creates methane, and methane is extremely polluting, and it's also a greenhouse gas, over 20 times more than carbon emissions. So by avoiding food to go to waste, then we save emissions. If those emissions are not in the atmosphere, we don't need to capture them. Sometimes prevention is better than cure. In this case here, the food bank is organizing the whole logistics to pick up the food before it goes to landfill. And it needs to act very fast. It needs to organize the transport, organize the cooling, organize the whole coordinations for that food to reach charities. A lot more people are going hungry. So we know that without additional money coming from greenhouse gas savings, so that's why we really want to show that these are high quality carbon credits, as they are called at the moment. And we are building the framework so companies that need to compensate their emissions can buy those credits at a very fair price. So it feeds people in need, and at the same time it avoids waste. I think this is a huge, massive opportunity. Saving food waste could be helping to reduce 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. In general, the food topic is responsible for even 1/3, but if we just focus on food waste, it's 10%. Reducing food waste can have that much impact. And also, as said, food waste is a shame in a world where people go hungry. I think it's not about being right or wrong, and it's not black and white. What we can say is, if we can have good methodologies, quick wins to reduce waste, it can have a massive impact on the environment. And we could use those resources for doing good and supporting populations not going hungry. This could have really the biggest impact. How to start with the carbon journey for any business who would like to engage in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and be able to touch a big pot of money. We think that, we should really make sure that every city, every company could create their own virtual voluntary carbon market. So this market would allow to make savings of carbon emissions visible through the certified carbon savings initiatives that we can put forward. And on the other side, there would be also more transparency for people who want to invest and buy those credits. So if you go more local, you know the people, and you make sure that, let's say, emissions are being compensated locally where they happen. So on the one side, we have ClearCarma that now has been set up as an NGO. ClearCarma is building standards, creating positive impact. So standards are really like best practices. So you could shop for your most adapted certification and best practice to implement and prove. So we are building also the platform and the system more as ClearCO2. ClearCO2 is a spin-off, which is more focusing on the platform and the solutions. So on one side, ClearCarma does the standards, as we said, like the norms, the best practices. On the other side, ClearCO2, our other organization, is helping certify and build all the tools to prove that, and also be able to trade those certificates of greenhouse gas savings. So once you have found a certification and a best practice that fits your business, maybe sometimes it needs a little financing and you can manage that on your own, but maybe it needs more investments, and that's where we want to leverage and bring your community in and give you templates and build templates together about how to communicate, how to fundraise. Instead of donations, I think there's a potential to really get investments, the buy-in of your customers to support your efforts in sustainability can be supported by your clients, because in the end client is always the one paying for everything. I've explained the different ways of saving greenhouse gas emissions, starting with food waste, but it's not only that. It's whatever goes into producing food and also what creates emissions. So waste is an easy way to start, but there's also switching to alternative energies, reducing material, really knowing your suppliers, making sure that you gather as much data as possible. So you see, it's much broader and it's really transformative. If it's done manually only, it might be a bit overwhelming. So that's why we are building tools and we are keeping everything as simple as possible. I think my message here would be, don't hesitate to jump in and start. It's always the first step that is the most important. And asking yourself every time that you touch food, what's in it? Where does it come from? How has it been produced? And answering those simple questions just help you find out, where can I save, or where can I influence, that supply chain to go a little bit greener.